Hello, I'm Dan Mantz. I'm the CEO of the Robotics Education and Competition Foundation, and welcome to the 2022-2023 season. I hope you are as excited as we are. I have so many hopes for this season. This is our first full season after the pandemic, and we expect to have as many teams as we did back in 2019 and 2020, and we continue to grow internationally. I expect that over 70 countries will participate in VEX Robotics this season. And besides our VEX Robotics programs, our drones programs are getting bigger and bigger. This year, we expect to have over 1,500 teams in our aerial drones competition, and over 100 teams are competing in our Bell Advanced Vertical Robotics competition. I mean, this is so exciting. In addition to all these great competitions, we have more online challenges. We have more activities to do, which some of our staff will be talking about soon. And we have new registration fees, other great additions we've made to our program. So they'll be talked about by some of my REC Foundation coworkers in a little bit. So one of the things I do want to hope for, one of my things that I'll be talking about this year is that robotics is a common language for us to learn from each other. I've been with the REC Foundation now for 6 years. And one of the things that amazes me is as I travel across the United States or even across the world is the universal language of robotics. Nothing makes me more excited when I see students from different backgrounds, students from different countries, strategizing together. So remember in this program, yes, we want to learn about building a robot. We want to learn about the engineering design process, but we also want to learn how to communicate, how to make friends and have a good time. So think about it. You are speaking a new language. It's called robotics. Over the day today, we are going to hear from like I said, from some of my different staff. You're going to hear about drones, you're going to hear about season updates from both last year and this year, and you're going to hear about advocacy on the community's behalf. That will be another focus for the REC Foundation this year is advocacy. We want to get the word out about our program and other great STEM and robotics and workforce development programs, and we need your help to do that. Also, one of the big highlights of these town halls is questions. So if you have questions during this session, please throw them in the chat, and I'll be back later to answer as many as I can. And now I'll turn it over to Luann, who will tell us more about our aerial drone competition. See you in a bit.
Hi, my name is Luann Cormier, and I'm here to share information about our 2 drone competition programs. Teams from around the country will take off and showcase their drone piloting and programming skills on the competition field, all while maneuvering the challenges of effective teamwork and communication skills. The use of drones in our communities and workforce is growing every day. Companies are using drones to inspect power lines, bridges, and tall structures. Farmers are using drones in the field for crop management. Emergency services are using drones to deliver life-saving medical devices, find lost hikers, and control wildfires. NASA is even sending a drone, their Dragonfly, to Saturn's moon Titan to explore for life. So as you can see, drones are being used everywhere, and here at the REC Foundation, we feel it's important for students to have hands-on opportunities with drones so they can be exposed to the career opportunities in the years to come. These students will be the next drone pilots, programmers, technicians, and problem solvers. Our 2 drone programs, the Aerial Drone Competition and the Bell Advanced Vertical Robotic Competition, start our students along that path. Both drone seasons are in progress. The Bell Advanced Vertical Robotics Emergency Firefighting Challenge is happening now, and competitions will be in November and December. The 4th season of the Aerial Drone Competition, Mission 2023 Blackout, is just getting underway and will run through the end of the school year. We invite you to check out these competitive drone programs at roboticseducation.org, and we would love to see teams from your area be part of these groundbreaking programs.
Thank you, Luann. Oh, wow, I am so pumped about this year's aerial drone competition. Woo, we're gonna see them flying all over the place here soon. I am Andy, as Luann mentioned. I am a director here at the REC Foundation, and I'm here to chat with you about some advocacy work we're doing. Advocacy is our way to get the community involved. It's really our way to help you get funding, whether it's through the local or state or federal levels. We want to help you do that, and we want to work with you on it. So a great example, if you keep up with it, there was a recent federal bill passed that has millions of dollars earmarked for STEM competition. I'm over the moon. This is gonna be a windfall for all organizations where there are STEM competitions, including the REC Foundation. We're waiting on those details, but I wanna give a huge shout out to a couple of VEX Robotics competition teams that went to Washington, D.C. on our behalf. Yes, that's right. We had teams show up to Washington, D.C. talking to elected officials. They were on the Capitol. They were able to get their voices heard, and that leads to that funding. So with that, let me just give a huge shout out again to those teams. And let me encourage you, if you have that opportunity, to reach out to the REC Foundation. Our team engagement managers can help you get those connections, can help you with talking points, can give you stats that you may want to share with those elected officials if the opportunity arises. And by that, I mean all the way from the school board to the state senate. If you have that connection or opportunity, you should jump on it for your community. And we aren't doing this alone. I am excited to be able to tell you a fun story I heard from our CEO, Dan Mantz, where he, a couple months ago, went to that Mall of America event, but he went early. Yes, he got a chance to meet with the executive director of a few other STEM competitions, including MATE and C-Perch and others, where they're starting to coalesce. They're starting to describe what does it take to come together to advocate for students. And so I'm excited. I very much look forward to what that turns into, but I also want to really give that shout out to Dan Mantz for speaking on all of our behalves and the other executive directors moving forward with that. And with that, I want to robot on to Bobby, who's here to talk about this year's season. You would think it's only September 27th. What do you mean season yet? Oh, Robot Events is hopping. Bobby, tell me what's going on there.
Thanks so much, Andy. Hey everyone, I'm Bobby, and I'm the Event Engagement Manager for Texas here at the REC Foundation. We are so excited this season here at REC, and we've already seen some really fantastic robot builds so far. The VEX community is an incredible force, and I know we're going to see a lot more from you before VEX Worlds kicks off. We've received a lot of really great questions from the Q&A, and I just heard from Dan about how excited he is to answer those later on. So, how's everyone enjoying VIQC Slapshot or VRC Spin-Up so far? Our game designers spent a ton of time making sure that this year's challenges were some of the best yet. I've already seen some amazingly creative ways that the teams are tackling the disc-based challenges. I see the chat's really moving, so if you want to talk about some of the interesting issues that you've faced so far this season, please share. So, yeah, about sharing with the VEX community. Have you been to an event so far this year? If you're looking to test out a new design or even just want to scout out what the competition is up to, check out robotevents.com or contact your RECF manager to find an event close to you. It's never too early to get out on the field. I also wanted to share with you some news about one of our signature events that took place at the Mall of America and another that took place in China earlier this season. Over 60 teams took part in the VRC Spin-Up event at the Mall of America, and almost 300 teams competed in Spin-Up and Slapshot events in Qingdao, China. My friend Brandy Bollinger from the REC Foundation was at the Mall of America event and had an absolute blast. She told me that it was the most amazing event she had ever attended. It was awesome to see the mall goers enthralled with robotics. The MCs got everyone excited for the competition and made them feel like they were part of the game. Everyone was dancing, singing, and cheering from the balconies. It sounds like an absolute blast. Remember, these events directly qualify the winning teams for competition in VEX Worlds 2023 presented by Northrop Grumman in Dallas, Texas. Congrats to the qualifying teams, and we will see you in Dallas in April. Okay, so here's some exciting news about participation fees. We heard your feedback, and this season we're hoping that even more teams are able to participate in competitions as we have introduced a new flat fee for all entrants coming from the same organization. Prices start at $200 for the first team, $150 for the following 3 teams, and free for all other teams up to 22 total. Make sure that you tell your friends, your coaches, and everybody else you know because they are all going to want in. Okay. So I know in the past it's been a little hard to find the information you need about the REC Foundation competitions. That's why the REC Foundation has introduced the online REC library as your one-stop shop for everything competition related. Students, Coaches, event partners, and volunteers all have their own easy-to-remember entry points on the VEX website, so you'll always be able to find the information you need in one place. That's about it from me, but one last thing. We know we have so many innovative teams out there, and we want to showcase yours. So send us your photos, videos, and any other interesting highlights to highlights@roboticseducation.org. Next up is Beverly, who's going to share the top 3 tips for a successful team.
Thanks, Bobby. Without further ado, here are the top 3 tips of the 2023 season. Tip number 1, this one's for the teams. Did you know that VEX offers virtual workshops to improve your VR skills in VEX Code IQ and VEX Code V5? Tip 2, here's a tip for the coaches. VEX Mentor PD Plus is a free program available to all coaches of registered teams. The Mentor PD community is filled with leaders like you and serves as a place to ask questions, share information, and allows coaches the opportunity to connect with other like-minded folks heading up VEX teams across the country and around the world. You can join at the link on the screen. Tip 3 is one you might not think of, but it's actually one of the most important parts of the VEX experience. We want to showcase your incredible builds, so snap a pic and tag us on your socials.
Wow, that was a lot of information. And don't worry if you missed some, this video will be available to watch anytime. And if you have other people, coaches, event partners, even students that missed today's session, please send them the link too. We're really making an effort to try to communicate to you all. One of the things I'm super excited today is to talk about our new mission and vision and why we made these changes. Now, it's not a wholesale change. When you look at the mission, you might not even really realize that we've made a change to it, but we wanted to update it to better reflect who the REC Foundation is. So one of the changes we made today is to make sure that our global mission is to provide every educator with competition, education, and workforce readiness programs. That's right, we are targeting the educator, and we want to make sure that you have the programs that you need. Of course, we still want to increase student engagement in science, technology, engineering, but also computer science. So as you can see from this new mission, we're even more focused, but the output's still the same. We are here to provide great services and support for you. We've also tweaked the vision. Now, it's again a small tweak, but we do see a future where every student designs, innovates as part of a team, overcomes failure, perseveres, and emerge confident in their ability to meet global challenges. The REC Foundation is a global organization, and we wanted to make sure that was reflected in both our mission and vision. So again, still the same REC Foundation, we just wanted to tweak the message a little bit. Now, I am super excited for this new video that we're about to show you. I've been here 6 years, and everybody asks, who's the REC Foundation? And a lot of times we'll show VEX Worlds videos, or we'll direct people to our website. But this year, the great video team at Innovation First International got together with us and helped put together a video that really explains who we are. So sit back and enjoy this great video. The REC Foundation, or more specifically, the Robotics Education and Competition Foundation, is a not-for-profit that aims to give every student an opportunity to do STEM through our hands-on, affordable robotics programs. Our goal is to give more students the opportunity to do STEM because STEM is what we need, not in the future, but right now. These high-tech jobs are so important to everybody, and it's not just the high-tech skills, it's those communications, problem solving, and collaborative skills that we really need that you get through the REC Foundation programs.
The REC Foundation mission and vision reflect the fact that we are all creators, we are all makers, and we are all creating a future where STEM is going to have an important role. I believe that that future will be brighter with STEM and with an educated workforce that understand how STEM can make the world a better place.
The only way that we're going to get the talent that we need for the positions that will be available in the future is to invest in STEM now. So we believe in the importance of supporting like Title I schools and making sure the kids have the access to STEM education.
Nevada Robotics, we really believe believe in starting and supporting the STEM pipeline from a very early age. REC Foundation has been phenomenal. We love working with them. They've been wonderful to support our teachers, come out and provide training for us every year. And REC has really helped us make connections and provide resources for those students and teachers.
TechPoint Foundation for Youth's mission is to make sure that students are not just only supported in the classroom, but they are connected to careers. We have found that REC provides such a great entry-level opportunity for students. We think that they put the students first and making sure that students have equal access to meaningful STEM education. That's why we think that every student and every school should have a REC robotics competition team. If every school had a robotics team, the world's going to be a better place.
Robotics is such a great way for those students to really work through their challenges throughout the year and really grow in those areas. The collaboration, the critical thinking, the problem solving, the perseverance, all of these things are invaluable to employers, to universities, and they don't learn those necessarily in other venues.
Most of the competition teams tend to organize themselves almost like small businesses. And so one of the things we reinforce with our students is that as you experience this team activity focused on building a robot, what you're really experiencing is professional team dynamics, and that's something that translates directly from a robotics team into a corporate environment where they're going to be working together with others who are collectively, as a team, trying to accomplish a task.
VEX Robotics and the REC Foundation are the core of what we need, not only in the United States, but across the world, bringing everybody together to give more students opportunities. And I'm super excited that the REC Foundation is part of it. I hope you really liked that video. Like we said with today's town hall, please feel free to share that video. I really think it's great, and I think it really reflects what we're trying to do. Well, guess what? As this town hall has been going on, we've released the 2023 VEX Robotics Worlds website. So you can find it at either the REC Foundation's website or at vexworlds.com. It includes the save the date as well as links to featured content. Now remember, this website is always evolving and is always changing over time. So as we release new information, please continue to check back at the website and stay up to date, because we all know we want to make it to VEX Worlds. And now for my favorite part of the night is the Q&A. So you guys have asked some great questions before tonight's town hall, and there's a lot of great questions that have come in. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to start answering your questions. Thank you. And now it's time for my favorite part of the night. That's the Q&A. I love answering the questions that the community sends in. But before I get started, I do want to explain that if you don't hear your question, your specific question, there's a couple possible reasons. First of all, we did take time to group similar questions together. That's a best practice that we do. So sometimes we think that one answer is close enough for all the questions. And then there are some questions that are very regional specific or team or event specific. So for those questions, we've actually forwarded those to the REC Foundation Team Engagement Manager or the Event Engagement Manager, and they'll reach out to you. Because remember, as part of submitting the questions, you guys did provide your name and email address. So, and that's of course if you're under 18 years old. So RECF policy, again, is we only communicate to people in our program that are over 18. So lots of good questions this year. Again, I'll do my best to be as transparent as possible. And with that, let's get started, Andy.
Yeah, well, Dan, I am excited to first go over this question submitted up through about 2 p.m. Central yesterday.
Okay.
And so we're grouped them by topic, starting off with VEX Worlds. That seemed to be a hot topic. So the first question I'm going to ask from the community is, do you anticipate more international teams this year from at VEX Worlds? And if so, does that mean the states are going to have less spots?
First of all, yes, we do anticipate a return of many of our countries coming back to VEX Worlds. Now remember, last year we still had close to 40 countries. Actually, we had over 40 countries at VEX Worlds. But we do expect more and more countries to return to VEX Worlds this year. I anticipate at least 70 countries having VEX Robotics teams this year, and probably at least 55, 60 of those traditionally go into VEX Worlds. Now, as you guys all know in the community, we have a fixed number of spots, and we actually allocate that based on participation, right? So if with the addition of more international teams, by nature, that means there'll be less spots for U.S. teams. So let's do a simple math exercise, right? STEM. Let's say there's 100 spots for VEX Worlds. And last year, based on participation, 90 of those 100 spots were U.S. teams and 10 were international teams. But this year, based on participation, now there's still only 100 spots, but 20 of them were international teams. So that would leave only 80 for the U.S. This is how we've always done it for qualification for VEX Worlds. There's nothing new there. But yes, it's a great situation that so many international teams are returning this year and will travel to Dallas in 2023 for the VEX Robotics Competition World Championship. But at the same time, there will be a few less spots for the United States teams. But again, qualifying criteria will be released later this week, I think on Friday. So all that information is public once the qualifying criteria document is released. So Andy, next question.
Oh, staying in that same vein of VEX Worlds and the number of teams going to show up. In particular, there was a question about VEX IQ. So how many elementary teams, how many middle school teams are we expecting in Dallas this year?
All right.
Or next year. Sorry,
next year.
I'm ahead of myself.
It's
this
2023.
Season.
Yeah,
this season.
It's still early in the season, Andy. But you know, I will answer this question because I know. But one of the things I will is encourage everybody to go to the VEX Worlds page. We announced it just a few minutes ago, and that page is up and running now. And that's where you can get all your latest up-to-date information. So we're really trying to get people to go to both the REC library and the VEX Robotics Worlds page to get these questions. But to answer the actual question is 800 for VEX IQ elementary and 800 for VEX IQ middle school.
So good. And then we love our high school students as well. So going into a high school Worlds, curious, are we going to deviate from the usual and possibly move high school before or after middle school, the VEXU and JRTC divisions this year in Dallas?
Well, one of the biggest questions I was asked last year was the AP question, right? So
yes.
when we scheduled VEX Worlds, anytime we would have been up against some AP exams, and we actually did a very calculated analysis of when we thought we'd have the least impact, and that's why we selected the dates for the VRC high school teams. Again, we wanted to avoid them going against calculus and many of those type of things, but it wasn't perfect. Well, fortunately this year, VEX Worlds starts on April 25th, and AP exams aren't till the following week. But again, to give the high school students as much opportunity to compete, but not miss any standardized exams, we will be starting VRC High School on April 25th, Andy. From then we'll go to VRC Middle School, VEXU, and JRTC, and that will start on April 27th. We are going to keep the same format where we have VRC High School will be finishing with their divisional finals and then to the Dome, while the middle school, VEXU, and JRTC school are starting. So they'll start on the 27th. Then IQ Middle School will start on April 30th, and VEX IQ Elementary School will start on May 2nd. So again, go to vexworlds.com to get more information.
Well, definitely will. I'll check that out, and that will get updated regularly, correct, as we have more information?
Well, Andy, you're the interim manager of marketing.
It's a rhetorical question, Dan.
I guess that's up to Andy to make sure it's updated regularly. But yes, that is the intent, is to update the website.
I'm open for bribes, community.
Yeah.
No, we will update that as it is available. So there was a new feature last year that everyone I talked to at Worlds went wild and gaga over. So the question came through our community yesterday: will judge interviews be virtual again like they were last year, or in 2022?
Yeah, so again, like you said, a lot of people approached us and they loved remote judging. And actually, Andy, we did it for live remote tournament
that is
the
true.
Previous year in 2022.
You got me.
So, yes, I think it was a big success, right? So I personally feel that every team got a better interview experience because everybody got their allocated time. Because it was pre-scheduled, there weren't judges running around trying to find teams. we were able to get we always have great judges in the REC Foundation, let's be honest. We have a fantastic, but because of this format, we were able to get professionals from many different industries. And we do plan to keep the remote judging. So every team will have a slot that qualifies for VEX Worlds. There'll be plenty of extra slots. We'll try to be as accommodating as we can. But yes, the plan is to do remote judging. And then the teams that do exceptionally well, that qualify for an in-person interview, that will happen during the VEX Worlds event. So.
Okay, well, and that was our last VEX Worlds question. So Dan, you're off the hook when it comes to Dallas in 2023 for now. I do think we do have another one of these scheduled for early February. I think that's when you're going to get hammered on some VEX Worlds questions. Well, but that's a good little appetizer.
It's always fun to talk about VEX Worlds, right? It's such a great event. The community loves it. We love it. If you talk to our fellow REC Foundation employees, unanimously, that is everybody's favorite event. So yeah. I'm happy to talk about it all day.
Well, let's talk about some local events. Okay. We had one community member that reached out and said, what is the list of competition dates, and are there any local to my area?
Oh, yes.
Where would you go to find those, Dan?
Well, there's a couple things I would recommend. And this is honestly to the community. We got a lot of questions like this. So I'm hoping this kind of one answer summarizes so many of those local questions. But if you go to robotevents.com, you'll get all the information in REC Foundation events. So again, that's robotevents.com. And we're adding new events all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So one thing we can use with the flat fee that we were talking about earlier today, with that flat organizational fee structure, we have more and more teams registering, so we always need more and more events. So consider being a host in your area. The REC Foundation will train you. We have a great group of event engagement managers that will be absolutely happy to help you. Remember, you can start with a small number of teams at your events, and you don't need to do judging at your events either. But again, for more information, go to robotevents.com for any event information.
Okay, I'll do just that. And we do have more than just what we've been talking about tonight, mostly, which is those ground-based robots. How about those little friends in the air? There is a question from a middle school team about is there any grants? Are there any grants to help start drone teams?
Yeah, so first of all, you have to give Luann a lot of credit for her great update on our drones program. It's super exciting. It's great that the REC Foundation, our bread and butter is the VEX Robotics competition, VEX Robots, but there's so many different ways to introduce students to STEM, and we know that drones is one way to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And so of course, as drones is growing, more and more people are excited. And absolutely, we do anticipate having drones grants available this year. A couple of our sponsors are excited about the drones program and are going to make some funds available. But we don't have all the details yet, but I highly encourage everybody to reach out to drones@roboticseducation.org. Again, drones@roboticseducation.org, and Luann or someone from her team will get back in touch with you.
Okay, and so maybe the funding's not there yet, but as it does open up, there are so many new teams to this drones competition. So there's going to be a lot of those newbie questions that we might not see with our ground-based robotics. So one team asks, do teams actually design and build their own drones, similarly to like what we do right now with VRC and VEX IQ competition?
Well, as Luann explained, is we actually have two different drones competitions. So we have our aerial drones competition, and we have our Bell Advanced Vertical Robotics competition. And the aerial drones competition, there's not as much building, right? There's lots of programming, lots of strategy. It's a great fun program. If you really want to challenge your building, the Bell Advanced Vertical Robotics competition really takes it to the next level. There's 3D printing available. There's soldering. It's something that Bell believes in, as the students need to do soldering. So there's much of a larger aspect of the build component in Bell AVR. So again, if you want to learn more about flying and strategy and our communication skills, those life skills that we talk about, aerial drones competition and all that, and more advanced build skills in Bell Advanced Robotics competition. So,
Dan, I'm looking at the chat over here, and people don't believe we're going to answer their questions. That is the current chat right now. Is there's no way they're going to answer our chat questions. So
That could be true, Andy, depending on the question. So
I bid you a falsehood, good madams and sirs in the chat.
Ooh,
we are going to get to
sorry,
those.
the pizza's here. We got to go. No questions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
No, we'll
so
get as
you
many
know
as
what?
we can,
To
yeah.
prove it, there was a question about when do the online challenges go live. That was in the chat. I'm scrolling up and down. That caught my eye. Dan, when do the online challenges go live?
I believe the online challenges go live next week, right, Andy?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it next Tuesday? A week from today?
Week from today, or is it the 12th?
Or the next Tuesday?
I think.
How about early October?
Early October, right?
That's
so
that we give
Luann
ourselves.
is also our online challenges person, and she's working very hard at that. That just proves this is live, because if this was a pre-submitted question, I would know the answer.
Yeah, we would have had
But
that.
I believe if it's not next week, it's October 12th.
We
so.
should have had our crib notes in our hand.
Yeah,
so we have ground-based robotics. We talked about drones a little bit. There's a new program that it's still in its infancy as well, kind of like drones, and it's the factory automation competition. So if someone was able to get the equipment, how much does it cost to participate in factory automation competition, or FAC?
Yeah, FAC, which uses the V5 work cell. It's a program that we're really proud of here at the REC Foundation. Well, actually, your registration was covered when you bought the kit, right? If you bought the $2,500 package, that actually included your registration. So that's already covered. So once you purchase the work cell with the registration built in, that information goes to the REC Foundation, and we will work with you for that competition. So last year was the first full year. We had a couple pilot years, and it's great to hear that so many people are using it in their classroom in particular, right? So it's a great continuing tech education program, and I think how it all goes together with the 12 different lessons. As you guys all know in the community, I come from industrial robotics, right? 20 years in the field, and, and you really mimic what you learn in industrial robotics. You learn about safety, you learn about degrees of freedom, you learn about conveyor systems and interconnectivity, and it all is at the end of it is that great competition capstone project. So,
question from the chat from Sharky DeWalt. Not sure if I said that right, so my apologies, Sharky.
Andy, you will learn someday not to try to give the names. So.
Okay, well, tagger name Sharky. Are there going to be any virtual competitions this year? I don't know if that means LRT, LRS, live remote tournament, live remote skills, or maybe they mean VR skills.
Yeah, it's hard to say because
we
in the REC Foundation, back to our live remote tournament days, we do try to distinguish between what's virtual and what's remote. So we are not doing the virtual drones anymore. We did that program for 2 years, but we're not doing that. But we will still have remote skills. So live remote skills this year. That's a great way for teams that aren't able to travel or as much as they want to, but still want to be involved in actual competition and work on your design, your iterative design skills and stuff like that. So live remote skills is an option. Of course, we also have other what I would call remote or virtual type activities. Online challenges is a great example. Again, we might not know the day that they're going to be released, but online challenges is one of those great activities. So not exactly sure what you're looking for, because virtual skills is a fantastic program. Again, I think that was talked about earlier as part of our tips, but virtual skills comes with your team registration, right? So one of the things I asked the Student Advisory Board last year is how many of the Student Advisory Board was doing virtual skills, and about half were. And I encouraged everybody to do it because you can work on your programming skills, and some people responded, well, my programming skills are more advanced than that. But all the coaches I talked to, it's still a great tool for newer students that you're just bringing into the robotics program. But it's also a great strategy tool too, right? I encourage everybody to be doing virtual skills at the beginning of the season and actually document it in your design notebook, right? It might help you get a design engineering award or an excellence award, right? So again, not sure exactly what the online person was looking for, but we will have LRS, we have virtual skills, we have online challenges. So all those activities are there for our community.
and this is a different poster, Limitless. Maybe this is going to define it a little bit better. Are skills-only events in person getting approved this season? Maybe to go hand in hand with that live remote skills.
Yeah, in-person skills-only events will be a viable option.
There you go. Yep, and actually Sharky already mentioned that's what Sharky was looking for. So
all right,
you nailed it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to one of those pre-submitted questions that we received up until yesterday. And this one is, per the new organizational flat fee, if an organization now has 4 teams this season, is it advisable to go ahead and register all their unofficial teams from previous years if they have the student count to justify it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, you know, we could go on for a long time about the flat organization fee. And, you know I'm the CEO of the REC Foundation, but I do have a board that I report to. And all the way back since 2019, we knew about so many organizations out there that had lots and lots of teams, but they only registered 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things that really kind of saddens me, to be honest, is when I would go on to VEX Forum or one of the Facebook coaches groups, and they'd say, I had 20 students come out for the robotics team, but we can only have 10. And we really looked, and how can we make it more accessible and more affordable for teams to have more teams? For organizations to have more teams.
Right.
And that's where the flat organizational fee came in. So I think this is actually, Andy, a really good example. If you had 4 teams, but you had 8 teams also building a robot, doing the activities in your school or your club, now you can register them all. And and remember, you don't have to just compete in a robotics competition. You have the online challenges. You can do other activities too. So we highly encourage all the organizations out there to register more teams, get more students involved, and do more activities.
Yeah, there's no limit to the number of options you can do with or without a robot.
Correct.
Now that we have an organizational flat fee, it's you essentially, you and your board have removed that barrier. So the 100%. Community appreciates it, and thank you, Dan, for that. A question, again, another pre-submitted question. This actually is a throwback to VEX Worlds, so my apologies. We did have one more VEX Worlds question in here. This one is about the REC Foundation being in Dallas. So the question is, will the REC Foundation move VEX Worlds from Dallas because of anti-trans legislation and policies in Texas? And has the RECF actually viewed the safety concerns of those students with anyone at all?
Yeah, so we've been asked this question, since last year, late last year, definitely in early spring. And first of all, I want to say to the community, the REC Foundation is an inclusive environment. We welcome all students to participate in our programs, no matter what your background is. And we will do everything that's possible to keep our students safe, every student from every background. This is not the easiest question. It's not, a fun question per se, but I think the community does deserve an answer. And first of all, I want to say that we're not going to move VEX Worlds from Dallas. We had a lot of people in the community saying, VEX Worlds needs to move. But we have a contract through 2025. Dallas has been a great host city for us. Their Visitors Convention Bureau, the Dallas Sports Commission have been great partners. And honestly, we have contracts with them. So we're not moving out of Dallas. We are going to remain in Texas through 2025. When these issues first came up, I did meet with the city. I did go meet with the city of Dallas, and I did voice and express the concerns from the community. And I assure everybody that we had lots of safety at VEX Worlds in Dallas, that Dallas themselves, when you talk to their legislation and their leadership in the city, has no intent to pursue any of those policies. And we feel that Dallas is a very, very safe place for all the students in our program and all our community.
Well, thank you, Dan. And going back to the chat, there's another VEX Worlds question, so I'll throw it in here right now. It's going to be a hard one for you to answer, I know. Is Dan's Dream with Memes coming back?
I hope so. That's actually a lot of fun. So
that's a VEX Worlds special.
That is a VEX Worlds special.
Years.
So that started at LRT. It was honestly an attempt for us to make that event a little bit more fun, because as great as LRT is, and I'll actually go into a little little diatribe here for a second, but LRT was a great event. What we did was an amazing thing, but LRT by itself could be a little bit dry. There wasn't that interaction of live. And we wanted to make it a little bit more fun, and everybody's always talking about memes. So I went to Brad and said, we should do memes. And we had a great time with it. So we brought it back last year, and we didn't have as many submissions as we thought we would. So we didn't have as many. So this is my challenge to the community, is that if you want more Dan's Dreams of memes, I'm happy to do them. But I need people to submit more memes too. So before VEX Worlds marketing department, we need to make sure that we message that. And one of the things, Andy, is I was going to say, a lot of people are really surprised how quickly we are growing this year, how much participation we're getting. And I do think a lot of it goes back to LRT. So I think when I talk to the executive directors and presidents of other STEM organizations, they're really surprised that we expect to hit pre-COVID numbers or surpass pre-COVID numbers. And I really do think it's because of LRT. I think the REC Foundation and VEX Robotics made a commitment to giving students an opportunity to compete during the pandemic. And I think because of that, a lot of programs kept going, a lot of coaches stayed involved, and most importantly, a lot of students stayed involved. And that's why we're having this success here. So I think it was a great decision that VEX Robotics and the REC Foundation made. Again, I've done this a lot, but thanks to the community for believing us and stand buying. And probably the best thing that came out of it was Dan Dreams of memes, right? So,
Oh, you're selling yourself way too high there, sir. And that is a post from user Kyosat. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But as you answered, that user yells yes in the chat. So you have at least one fan. And Jason, I know you're listening right now. We need to check, put an action item down. We need to check to make sure that memes at roboticseducation.org is still open and active. Because if it is, give us a day and it'll be active. Go to memes, send your memes into memes at roboticseducation.org, and we are all about it. Speaking of memes, there is multiple people asking about water game. Dan,
oh yeah, I can't wait to game unveil in 2023. I just say, wear your galoshes and bring your umbrella. That's all I'm going to say. So.
Okay. Back to some pre-submitted questions, and this is going to the local events again. When will the event regions, so across the world per se, receive their qualifying spot allocations for the 22-23 World Championships? I know you mentioned that a little bit. Yeah. What's the deadline for the event partners, that kind of thing?
So Ryan and his team have been working really hard at this. We want to make sure that we have a mechanism in place so we can get this information out earlier in the future. But right now, our plan is to have this released no later than next Wednesday, but maybe as early as this Friday, right? Mm-hmm. But again, the reason it's taken a little bit longer, although I guess we're we're probably on schedule from previous years.
Yeah, traditionally about this.
Yeah, but we're Ryan and his team have looked at how to streamline the process so that we can release it right after Worlds in the future. So because it's basically based on participation, in each country and each state, we should have a good idea. And the community knows we leave a little bit back to accommodate for growth and expansion during the season. So again, by next Wednesday, hopefully maybe even this Friday, and then in the future to get it out even earlier.
Okay, so that deadline of Friday to maybe a little mid next week. So thank you for that. And the community is on their toes waiting to see how many they're going to have in their region. One user put in a question that they actually emailed the REC Foundation by emailing support@recf.org about the new RECF knowledge base and about an article with some out-of-date information. Okay. So we are always open. If you find an error, definitely reach out to us. But what did they do wrong, Dan?
Well, geez, as much as we wish we own recf.org, we actually do not own that. So the thing is, we don't have that domain, so please email support@roboticseducation.org. And again, as Andy said, we want that feedback. We are so excited about the REC library. I know we devoted some time earlier tonight to talk about that, but the REC library is something that's been a dream of ours for a long time. A big shout out to Bob Mimlich, CTO at IFI Next Door and co-founder, co-owner of VEX Robotics. It's his vision that both VEX and the REC Foundation have these, we call them libraries, they're knowledge bases, and we really want the community to use these. So my hope, my dream, my vision is in the future that people are going to our library and getting their answers, and that way our staff can do even more to grow teams and to support other teams and stuff like that. So
yeah.
So now, Andy, if there's a big donor out there that wants to buy recf.org for us, we would take that. But in my 6 years, we've not been able to secure that domain. So roboticseducation.org. Yeah.
It's in this mysterious void that is the internet. So another question, this is probably one of the most excited folks that I got to read their post, and it was, you could feel the excitement. They actually used the exclamation point, "The Global Skills Leaderboard is back!" So for those that have been veterans, they can remember back to a day when the Global Skills Leaderboard meant something. I mean, yes, there's always been bragging rights, but there actually was a conduit to VEX Worlds through that leaderboard. It got pulled back, but there might have been a VEX forum post that's hinting at it coming and having a little weight again. So after all championships events are concluded, we are telling the community now that the top 10 non-qualified teams in the World Skills Standings are getting an invitation to Worlds 2023, which is phenomenal. How is there a way to sort? What is the REC Foundation going to do to announce those 10 teams to the community?
So let's step back a little bit. That's a lot to unwind.
I know.
So yes,
been maybe 3 questions.
Back in 2017, 2018, we did get rid of the top 30 teams on the World Skills List qualifies directly to VEX Worlds. That was part of our decision to get rid of skills-only events. But to show the community that we listen, Andy, this is something the community has clamored. We never got rid of the importance of skills lists, right? Because skills were a way to qualify for your state regional event, and they were also used for qualification to Worlds, but at the region or state or national championship, right? So skills lists never went away, and they still were still an important part. But based on feedback from the community, as you said, the top 10 teams with the World Skills rankings that have not already qualified to VEX Worlds will be invited. Now, what I understand the question is, it's a lot of work to figure that out on your own. It's a big process and stuff like that. So what we would probably do is closer to Worlds. It wouldn't make sense right now because so few teams have qualified. But at some point, we'll get with our developers and we'll make sure that that list is published, right? So as you know, it doesn't make sense, again, like I said right now, but as more and more regional, national, and state championships occur and more teams have qualified, maybe we can, when you list the top 100, there can be an asterisk or something next to them that they've already qualified. So that's a ticket we'll send to our developers and look to have that before VEX Worlds next year.
Well, that's a very nice offer, sir. I know that it would behoove some folks as well to be able to quickly scan up and down. So thank you for that. Now, this is actually a question from someone that is fairly knowledgeable about the state of the United States. And this user wanted to know, how is the America Competes Act going to maybe affect or benefit the REC Foundation community?
Yeah, we're very, very interested in this too, Andy. As you know, I go into Andy's office quite a bit and say that advocacy needs to be our focus. And we have a unique opportunity, to be honest. This act really should benefit the REC Foundation, all our programs, the educators, and the students, right? So if you don't know, a portion of the funds will go to help K-12 education efforts. So that's the part that we're excited about. In the past, that we needed a lot of partners in secondary academic educations, universities and stuff like that, to get access to these funds. But we think that we'll be able to have direct access to those funds through the CARES Act. And we're still investigating how it's going to benefit. And again, you talked a little bit earlier about, all of us organizations need to collaborate together. So I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet with MATE and CPERCH and some of those organizations, and we're all looking at this together. But the best thing is that hopefully there's more money for programs that our students are participating in.
Yeah, and it's great that communities, governments worldwide are recognizing that as such an important piece of getting the workforce and the problem solvers ready for some of the problems that we're creating even today. Looking at the chat real quick, a fun little request of you, Dan, from Fief the Thief. Are you going to the Kalahari this year? I think people want some selfies with the Dan Mantz. They're going to just show up for this if you're going to be there.
I never want to say never. I love the Kalahari Classic. The community's bored to hear that, yes, the Kalahari Classic was the inspiration of what later became signature events. But we are still a not-for-profit, right? And we try to keep our registration fees as low as possible. And one of our biggest expenses is travel. So Dan, the mean CEO, has a philosophy that no more than one senior manager in the organization at a signature event at a time, right? So of course our team engagement managers, our event engagement managers will often go to the signature events, but just to be good with our good stewards of our funders and your registration fees that you pay, we don't send a lot of staff to a lot of events. So already we have a couple people already allocated to the Kalahari Classic, so it's not likely that I'll be going to that one. I do think I'll be going to the one in Calgary though. So I saw that I checked it out earlier this week, and there's still some openings for the one in Calgary. So if you really want to get that picture with me, I would highly recommend going to the Calgary event. So, and plus if you go to Calgary event, Banff is very, very close to there, and it's a beautiful. And now I'm going to get in trouble for not pitching all our great signature events, but that's the one that I'm signed up to go to right now.
Okay, well that just means they get to like Pokemon this. They get to collect all of the selfies with all of your senior staff.
All right, we need to move on.
We'll
here.
have to move to that one. Okay, well thanks Fief the Thief. There you go. Question about some of the back orders that we've had this year, and in particular with the second generation Gen 2 VEX IQ. Will there be later month competition, so maybe even as late as March and April, which that's pushing it, but later month slapshot competitions due to that?
Wow, that's a hard question. Why did we ask this one?
I don't know.
Yeah, so obviously the REC Foundation and VEX Robotics are very aware of certain part shortages and how that impacts competition teams. And believe me, nobody is more upset than VEX or RECF, right? So, there's lots of reasons contributing to the pipeline issues. I think the chip is the very obvious, and it's not just this industry. There's lots of industries, auto industry. I heard that Ford has 750,000 trucks sitting in factories that they can't get to dealer lots because they're still waiting for chips. So, but that's not the question that was asked. The question that was asked is, are we going to move back events because of this? And we have to practically have a cutoff date for our events, right? And every year people ask, why this date? Why can't you just do it 2 weeks later? But putting on VEX Worlds is a logistics challenge, to say the least. And as much as we'd love to be able to have events right up to the week before, we need to know what teams have qualified from where. There's so much logistics work that we can't move back the qualifying date. But I would remind the community that you can still do scrimmages and other events. The season doesn't have to end when your regional, state, or national championship is over. You can still do activities. But I don't see us extending the regular season because we can't extend VEX Worlds.
So events, yes. Qualifying events, that's where we have to draw the line because, for our judging committee now, you have to think about doing remote judging. If that's a best practice, we got to be able to talk to these teams before they show up.
That's a really good point. When you're trying to schedule over 3,000 teams for their judging slot, I don't think CJC would be very happy with me if I push that anymore.
So this was actually asked earlier in the chat, but again, online challenges, and in specific, this person asked about the STEM Research Challenge. What do we know about that?
Oh, well, geez, Andy, I guess we do know the date that online challenges will be announced,
because
it's right here. So Andy's trying to trip me up by putting these live questions in between them. But the STEM research project has been moved to an online challenge a couple years ago. And again, the online challenges will be announced on October 12th.
So there was a question in the chat, and there was a question submitted earlier about what about new teams, new students? So Deaf Penguin 323, they asked in specific, how do new students this year get to know more about robotics? How do they get to know with everything going on with VRC? Or another way of saying it is, we're a new team and we're reading through all these guidelines and approximately how many teams bring their own game fields to tournaments. What is the entry point to all of these?
Well, boy, we could spend the rest of our time together answering
exactly
this. But honestly, I think the best answer for this is, the REC Foundation provides global support of our programs. So internationally, we still call that position the Regional Support Manager.
Yes.
But within the US, that's the Team Engagement Manager. And if you go to Robot Events, you will see a map of the support. So there are so many different ways to answer that question. I just highly encourage the community. If you're international, please reach out to your regional support manager. If you're a US team, please reach out to your team engagement manager. And they're going to be able to provide a much better answer than I can.
Yes, and they will guide you to the correct Mentor PD Plus, the REC library, the entry points that VEX just announced. So there's
Correct.
a lot of different ways. The one thing that I've always loved about the REC Foundation, both as a coach and as an event partner, and now even as a staff member, is I have no robotics background, Dan. I am not like you. I didn't come from the industry, and it was, as a coach, so much easier for the students to get engaged because of those. So Thank you for that, and thank you to all of those that have created those. So the next question, we actually didn't know what this meant. So the question is, are there girl-powered tournaments held in California or even the US? And I don't know if they meant workshops because the month of the girls coming up in just a few days, or if they meant tournaments where they could bring a girl-powered team with their robots. How do you find them? Do they exist?
Yeah, so as you say, Andy, we have girl-powered workshops that will be happening in the month of October. The International Day of the Girl is in mid-October. International Month of the Girl is the month of October. And so we have girl-powered workshops. There are 100 of them scheduled throughout the US and the world this year. But we also have events too. There are girl-powered tournaments, which are teams that are maybe all girl teams, or more, hopefully there are more teams that are girl-powered teams, which is at least 50% girls. So not every state, not every region has these. So the best thing to do is go to Robot Events or reach out to your event engagement manager and ask them. So girl-powered workshops in October, and again, there are tournaments throughout the world that do feature girl-powered teams.
Yeah, thank you. As we go into state and world championships come January, February, with some of the changes that we saw in the qualifying criteria, the question was, is the robot skills champion at that regional championship still going to qualify for the state and world championships, depending on if they're already at the local or state level?
And Andy, that really depends on your region, right? So there are smaller regions that only the Excellence Award qualifies. There are regions that the tournament champions, and there are regions that the skills champion or sometimes even from the skills less qualified to world. So that's really region, state, national specific.
Because, I mean, we know double qualifiers, you pull off the skills list from the event now. So almost by default, you've got a higher probability, but you're right. A large event versus a small event are going to have two different things. So, Dan, there was questions throughout the chat. There's questions here submitted in advance that having parts on back order. You mentioned this earlier about VEX Gen 2.
Right.
Is there anything that we can do now, or is there anything being done now for next year's game that VEX is doing to anticipate this?
Well, yeah, actually, that is a great change that Grant, the head of the GDC, made quite a few years ago. So, next year's game that we'll announce at VEX Worlds is already done.
Okay.
That game's been done. We try to be in a cycle that we're 2 years ahead. And so that game is done. The engineering is done. The game elements are being tooled up. We really work very, very hard to have all the game elements here before the game unveil. And sometimes there's just situations beyond our control. Maybe a factory goes down, or there's a labor shortage and you can't unload stuff and things like that. But generally, VEX Robotics takes it very seriously. The GDC works very, very hard that the games are designed and the parts are engineered and tooled by this time a full year so that the product is already here. And once in a while there's a part out of stock. Things happen, but for the most part the intent is always to have inventory when we announce the game.
So not just the game pieces, but also things that the game design committee might consider.
100%.
This is the piece that you would need.
Yeah. So if our brilliant game design committee says, "Man, with this year's game, I think we're going to need more of this part. We try to anticipate that, and I know somebody on is right now going to say, "What about flywheels?"
Yes, that's what they've been saying. You guessed it.
I don't even need to look. I'm sure the flywheel question will come up, but again, it's like the engineering design process. It's an iterative process, and we do our best. But GDC, they do anticipate that stuff, and we do try to have product in stock.
Now, Dan, I'm going to ask you one question that is going to summarize about 20 questions we got, all involving game questions. So I'm going to ask you one, but it's really just setting you up for this answer, and it's, can you speak about the in-game strategy in VEX Robotics Competition about strings scattering across the field? So options for referees and stuff. Oh, you're interrupting me. What's the answer?
Yeah, I can't speak about that strategy. I really can't. I think we anticipated that teams would go with that strategy, but yes, it's. I went to the Mall of America event, talking about another signature event that I went to. I was at the Mall of America event, and we saw right away that yes, we're going to have a good way to count those tiles and stuff like that. So, but the real answer is, if you have any questions on the game, please go to post a GDC question. Right, that's the right way to do it. So, GDC, they process those. If you've noticed. Getting answers out, responses out very, very quickly this season. And please post all those. And again, Andy, looking at the pre-submitted questions, there was probably 24 GDC questions. And for all of those out there that asked a question that should be answered by GDC, again, this goes back to my opening statement. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not the right person to answer those questions. So please answer your question, post your question. That way, when GDC posts a response, everybody in the community gets to see it.
Yep. And so the Game Design Committee has the official Q&A that you can get to from robotevents.com. And if you don't know how to find it, you can reach out to those managers you were mentioning earlier. Dan, a very open-ended question here for you. What do you, they actually said the Dan CEO, what do you hope to see from this year?
Wow.
I know. How open-ended can that be? World peace?
You know I love these kind of questions, Andy. So... one of the things is, for me, is one of my messaging this year. Every year I seem to have a theme that I adopt, and sometimes it's the event partners or the backbone, or last year how important educators are. But one of the things I really see now that I've been doing this for 6 years is that our community speaks the language, and the language is robotics, right? And I think I'm pretty consistent. We do run a VEX Robotics competition. We run drones competitions. I do understand that at the end of every tournament, we crown a champion, a winner, etc. But for me, it's never been about finding the best robot or the best drone or even the best programming. It's always been about STEM and workforce development. It's been about the engineering design process. And it's been about the workforce skills that you learn in our program, the communication skills, the teamwork, the collaboration, the problem solving. So what I would really like to see this year is more of our community embracing what we do, working on a great designed robot, having fun in the process of iterating your design, and competing. Again, encourage everybody in the community to look at our code of conduct, look at our student-centered policies. But at the end of the day, for me, that's all noise. What I want from the community, what I want to see is our students having a good time learning, making friends, and speaking that robotics language.
Yeah, that would be transcending, like you said, almost every nationality, country, everything. And you see it at VEX Worlds every year.
Correct.
Dan, that is actually the end of our pre-submitted questions. I know we're ending right on time, but we have the chat.
Okay.
I'm going to ask, there's quite a few questions here, and it looks like we are back on. So our stream died, and it's back, so thank you for JC now.
Okay. Well, Andy, I know there's probably a lot, and let's take another 5 to 10 minutes. So again, if we don't get to all your questions, we apologize, but we could be here all night, which I would love to do, but Andy's got 2 young daughters at home that he wants to see, so I'll use him as the excuse.
Okay,
So what's the first chat question, Andy?
So one question that was asked earlier, it was actually answered in the chat, and I wanted you to clarify it because it wasn't answered entirely correctly, and that is, how much is it to be able to do Bell the Bell Advanced Vertical Rush? How much is it? Ultimate Carito asks, how much is to start the Bell AVR drones?
So the Bell Advanced Vertical Robotics Competition, so Bell AVR, is $4,000. So what does that $4,000 get you? It gets you the drone. Okay, so it's an incredible drone. So this is nothing like you've used before. It's a custom drone. It flies very, very well. It's very maneuverable. It's a custom drone with lots of advanced parts and stuff like that. So the $4,000 includes the drones. It also includes all the peripheral devices. So we have a rover land vehicle in there. We have little balls that simulate firefighters in this year's game. We also have a smaller drone that's part of this year's competition, and some other game elements. So that's also included. And the $4,000 includes the registration fee for your first event. So again, you get the drone itself, all the game elements, and the registration for their first event for that $4,000. And like everything else, if you go to roboticseducation.org, you can learn more about the program.
Well, thank you, Dan. That is what I have gotten to see one Bell AVR competition, and it takes off. I mean, no pun intended. It truly takes off, and you haven't seen a competition until you've seen one of those.
It's really a great competition. So, people have an opportunity. We have events this year in Texas, in Michigan, and in Maryland. So we've expanded outside of Texas this year, and a lot of those videos will be shared to the public to watch. So
I'm going to ask a compilation of questions. So this is not just one person, but a few questions in the chat summarized up in that there is a concern about what would almost be considered adult designed robots or industry designed robots for this year's game. So what is the REC Foundation going to do about that? What do we do?
Yeah, this is a tough question. I think I've been asked this. It's probably the number one question I'm asked now. It used to be, aren't you afraid that robots are going to take people's jobs? But now I think this cottage industry of people selling or giving out their design. And there's no really clear answer on this because first of all, we are a student-centered organization, right? So ideally, our students are going through the design process, maybe starting with a hero bot or a claw bot, and eventually getting up to a top design. Now, in our programs, there's no secret. There is a convergence of design in our program. It predates these publicly available robot drawings, right? So what can I do as CEO of the REC Foundation? How can I, say that this is the desired outcome? Well, the fact of the matter is teams, since the advent of YouTube and things, they do go on and they do see good designs and they try to copy them. Now, it's a little bit easier and more accessible with some of the programs out there right now. And I hate the fact that people are selling their designs. But in talking to a lot of people, and just go onto Facebook or go onto the VEX forum, and there's no consensus on what the answer should be there too. Because at the end of the day, if you see a design, you still have to reverse engineer it, re-engineer it, et cetera, and rebuild and iterate. A good example is in IQ last year, the design that got out there, there's a quick convergence with the design, which as CEO, I don't like that. I wish that would have happened more organically. But that design by itself wouldn't have won you a state championship, a regional championship, for many different reasons. So the people that took that design and they iterated it and made it better, those were the teams that had the most success on the field. So is there a way to outlaw this? I'm not sure. We continue to talk about it. We are going to definitely try to reduce the influence of this in the program. There's just no right or wrong answer here. But again, for you coaches out there, for you students, for you educators, it's about the design process, and that's what's most important. So, we encourage you to start from the beginning with brainstorming. If one of your students falls upon one of these and this is what they want to go with, at least do the design process as part of it. Take the robot apart, look at how you can improve the design and iterate the design. So I hope that is at least a satisfactory answer for the community.
Well, and the one part it's hard to police it. That's true. And police isn't the right word because this isn't a gotcha community. We aren't in a gotcha community. But every event that has judging, which has most of our local events, our regional championship, and definitely VEX Worlds, if you didn't go through that design process, that's where our staff or our amazing key volunteers, that's where it comes to light. If you come in with a robot you got from YouTube, there's no way you're going to be explaining why that hole count or why that pitch or why that gear ratio. That's where I've seen it. And unfortunately, and there's a process. There's student center, there's code of conduct that you as CEO in the last 5 years or so have added to that to help with it. So
Correct.
It's a process. And that's pretty much, we have one fun question I was going to ask you at the end, and I've been saving it.
All right.
But so far, this was it. So Dan, thank you so much for opening your Tuesday night to the community. I very much appreciate it as a director here representing the West Coast, but also as the staff that represents you out in the field. Here's the last question.
Okay, Andy.
Can we have a fun section of competition for random robots? Have you ever thought about a go crazy competition?
Absolutely. So, okay, I get asked this a lot. I get asked about having a platinum league and things like that. And all these are wonderful ideas, an adult league, all these type of things like that. And the fact of the matter is we ask so much from our event partners already.
Yep.
That's why I don't do it. I mean, it's not that I don't want to. I mean, I am a pretty mean, boring guy, right, I guess. But at the end of the day, I do want us to have fun with this. But it's really, we depend on our event partners to run these competitions. So now us asking them to do more when they're already spending so much of their time and resources and asking so much of their volunteers, we've been hesitant. So, but what I always do tell the community is you're not limited to our official REC Foundation VEX Robotics competitions or our drones competitions. You can have scrimmages, right?
Yeah.
You can already get together today and have a fun event, right? You can already do these things that you want to do. But to make it part of the REC Foundation ecosystem, I think would be asking so much more from our already overworked staff, event partners, and volunteers, and that's why they do it. So sorry to take your fun question and make it more serious, but there is a reason why we don't do some of these things. We do think they're good ideas, don't get me wrong, it's just we don't have the capacity to do them.
Okay, so fun question aside, Dan, and I mean, CEO is doing dreams with, I mean, it does have a Dan's Dreams with Memes, kind of has a little rhyme to it, but if there's not a fun out there, or if there is a fun out there, I think we found it in you, Dan. So for keeping that in scrimmages and girl-powered workshops and many other places where fun is the emphasis. It's the design process with an end goal of fun. And speaking of fun, I had fun tonight, Dan. Thank you for your time.
And thanks for emceeing and asking the questions. So again, to the rest of the community, sorry if we were not able to answer your question, but again, you can always support at roboticseducation.org or reach out to your TEM or EEM or your regional support manager if it's international, and we will do our best to try to answer your questions the best that we can.
You bet. So to the community, robot on.